BBFC VMPA is back. Uh, just hold on a minute, everyone who's listening. This is non-canon, just for anyone who's curious. I just thought to do a one-off episode with my usual partner, Bobatron and Rob Bavister. Not tied to anything, but just about one of my favorite TV shows of all time. You know it from those white clouds, and it shows Springfield.
Well, that gives it away just by naming the city.
Exactly. Or The SIMPSONS. Or just say duh, and people know what you're talking about. Can you do duh? Hey, you could get Dan Castellaneta's job while you're at it. I guess let's just get in on the skinny if you like. Hey, that's my name. So I'll start with you first. What was your experience of this wonderful show that unfortunately has turned a bit crap?
But, um, well, not particularly early. It took a while to come over to on terrestrial television in the UK, in spite of it having been airing since Christmas '89. So it just basically been technically since 1990. It didn't actually air on a British TV, a British terrestrial TV, until late 1996. And because Sky had bought the rights to them, so only those who had satellite TV could actually watch it. So I mean, I remember one time when I was about, how old was I? 5. I think it might have been 7 or 8. I was in very early primary school. I did rent a video for 2 episodes uh, of it, so I managed to watch it that way. But generally speaking, I didn't get to. It took me until I was 11 and nearly 12 to even start watching the damn Simpsons. So yeah. Although I have watched it quite originally ever since, which is quite a bit annoying that a lot of the were several seasons behind, and a lot of the pop cultural references they were making back then were horrendously dated. Um, but yeah, no, obviously I enjoy it growing up. Uh, Ironically, I'd seen Beavis and Butthead before I'd really watched The Simpsons. But I managed to watch it before I saw things like South Park, Family Guy, Futurama, or anything like that. And I mean, it'd always be come on about 6 p.m. On on a BBC Two actually, so we could watch it just as Neighbours was finishing. It was kind of annoying because we generally have tea at 6 o'clock, and of course my mum made it. Parents would have it at 6 o'clock, so we could watch Neighbours first, and then go have TV. But then it's like they started getting annoyed that we couldn't watch The Simpsons, so we tried to push it back a bit further. Then, of course, later on Buffy the Vampire Slayer came on, so that got even more annoying. But what could do? The thrills of streaming now and things like iPlayer, we can just watch something at a more convenient time. What about you?
It made it too easy for everyone now, but my experience was pretty much the foundation of my childhood. This is someone who grew up on stuff like Dexter's Laboratory and Johnny Bravo as a child. I used to watch Cartoon Network quite regularly. Then I came across Simpsons, which it's a little bit hard to pinpoint exactly how I saw it, but I know it's probably, this is open to debate, the first adult cartoon I've ever seen. In fact, it's probably most people's first adult cartoon. And it did cause a little bit of controversy in the house because of that. But once I got to dip my toes in the water and see some of the episodes, particularly through a VHS copy that I got for Christmas, this was back in '98 or something. It was called Heaven and Hell, PG certificate. And it's all a set of religious episodes of The Simpsons where Homer doesn't want to go to church. I think one involves Homer and the family going to Mr. Burns' castle. He's dressed up as Dracula. And another episode where Bart sells his soul to Millhouse. That was my first foray into that TV show. And some of those early episodes I remember seeing. If I were to revisit them again, I would just start crying because, like Toy Story, it's a work that stayed by me ever since I was a young boy when I was happy and I didn't have all these issues. So it meant a lot to me. And then as the years went on, because yes, this may imply a bit of class divide here. We did get Sky, but the first time I ever saw Simpsons was actually on VHS, and then came Sky, then came BBC. And when I was, Channel 4, they aired it on 4. I was actually watching it more on Sky 1 more than anything. So yeah, I've got a very rich history of Simpsons. It's a show I can talk about for hours, but I'll
Well, there's
try
a lot of talk
to
about.
narrow it down for everyone here.
Well,
And
it is the longest running TV show, at least the longest running uh animated TV show. Well, that's not a soap basically. Um, for in the world. So yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of content. I don't know if they've hit how much. Probably how many bloody episodes have they hit now? If actually, I'm going to Wikipedia it while we're doing it, rather than just throwing it out there.
must be
Uh,
like 700 or 600 by now.
oh, he's actually yeah. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, 752 according to Wikipedia, as we say this on the 14th of October 2023. So yes, that is actually true. Blimey, three quarters away to 1,000. Um, God,
I
just from that.
didn't even know it would be possible because I've seen at least all 400 episodes and maybe, let's say, about 420. Get the joke? 420 Simpsons episodes. Those other 300, I didn't even bother because that's new series. That's the
Well, I
like
mean,
Gen Z stuff.
it's like 30 years of it. Well, 33 years of it. We're going on 34 now, actually. 750 episodes, and it's like only the first 10 years of it, or barely that. That's really any good. I mean, some in front of later seasons. Well, the post-millennium seasons and everything. I mean, yeah, you can find an occasional good what's it? Good episode once in a way, but they are buried under a lot of shit. I mean, I always
Um,
find it quite telling that it's to give an idea of these shows' relevancy and everything. The two adult cartoon shows and far more adult cartoon shows that have been said to have succeeded in relevance, South Park and Family Guy, are themselves slowly becoming irrelevant. With in the face of shows like Rick and Morty and what other ones? Big Mouth and BoJack. Well, not Bo. It's finished, but yeah, there's stuff like that, or the stuff you'd see on Netflix or anything. I don't know exactly. I don't know how to go further with that, but I mean, so yeah, you can really see it. I mean, they talk about like how Simpsons was adult TV series, or they couldn't quite tell if it was for adults or for kids because kids liked it and everything. It was on in prime time, but it was never quite so kid friendly. We did talk about slightly more grown ups. Grown-up issues, like they would actually say sex and everything. But I mean, it is ridiculously quaint and tame that that stuff could even be considered boundary pushing by nowadays.
well, that's what I thought too. Is it wrong to say that I thought it was like some sort of kids show growing up? The
Oh,
fact,
hardly. I mean, loads of one of my mates at school even wore a when on a day we could wear my home clothes, wore a Bart Simpson T-shirt. So it's not so you're not exactly it's not as if I was to say that kids are obviously drawn to it. I mean, how much Bart Simpson merchandise did they actually sell? Produce and sell? Because yeah, it was aimed at kids, but of course there were jokes in there that were more for grown-ups.
obviously, it's kind of like I wouldn't use Friends as an example, but let's say Flintstones. Flintstones, the originator of the adult cartoon or primetime animated TV show. Without that, there would be no Simpsons. But yes, I would say both of them have that sort of common thread of there's something for everyone. Although that mileage may vary depending on who you talk to. You know, sorry I had to bring in Yabba Dabba Doo and all this, but my mother, God bless her, she used to watch Flintstones when she was growing up, and she was told that was not a kids show. Which I had the same thing when I heard about The Simpsons not being a kids show, and I was like, but why? Because I thought, oh, you could be on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, but it wasn't. And as I got older, I saw the 12 certificates and I thought, wait, what's going on? Because when I saw if it was a 12 or anything higher than that, it was instantly an adult cartoon. And then,
Well, yeah, I mean, a cartoon rate 12. Obviously, it's not something you're going to see on CBBS or anything, is it? I mean,
oh,
it's going to
hell
be
no.
something that's it's going to be something that's probably going to. I mean, they might say words like penis and vagina. I mean, they might. Um, what else they might do? Say talk about sex or just say sex. Gosh, you might even see they might even smoke or well, smoking's one of the. They might even see blood in it and everything. I mean, the Beavis and Butthead videos were rated 12, as was the feature length film.
No, you're right. I couldn't watch Beavis and Butthead as a kid. I was like, oh man.
And if you look on a BBFC website, a lot of the early episodes of South Park were actually got away with 12 ratings. Actually, it's just like one or two episodes you get 15, so the video gets rated 15, so you get it. But I mean, what do I mean by that? So it's generally all in all, it's yeah. So a 12 rated cartoon even today. I mean, you would expect but anyway, like I say, not kiddish stuff.
I've even seen some 12 rated animations that, weirdly enough, are like TV PG or PG in the United States, like Adventure Time or Delgo, and then the recent Belle anime film that was given a higher rating in the UK than in the US. So I was like, so yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I've heard
that
that with a few anime films.
it lost its power, the 12 rating. Now it's considered a family rating, and that it sort of bothers me still. Because call me
Well, I
crazy.
mean, well, like I say, I mean, Amer it's Britain's equivalent of PG-13, and that's how it is, and that's how it should be considered. Um, so, well, that.
Well, no, I understand. It just makes me laugh because we're reminiscing old times. No, because you're older than me, you've had the bit of the upper hand of actually watching. Well, Simpsons, they probably wouldn't have censored you from watching like South Park and stuff, which I heard all my friends at school saying they watched, but I was the only one who was like, I was no. Partly because I self-censored myself from watching it because I thought, oh, it's a 15. Oh, I can't even see it. And then as I got older, around like '06 and '07, I started watching a hell of a lot more 15s. That sort of stigma sort of disappeared, but I still was nervous about touching um, any copy of South Park on Love Film or getting it at the library or watching it. I had to sneak and watch that Family Guy South Park crossover episode and mute it down so I didn't know my mother would catch me watching it. And that was at the same time I was watching Elfen Lied. So go figure.
Yeah, not really seeing a lot of consistency there, Mark. But that's really off topic, so I'll leave that for another discussion. Um, Something I wanted to mention actually, because I thought it'd be worth mentioning and all that, is did you ever find it a bit weird that they finally did manage to do, or a bit odd in some way, that they finally decided to do a Simpsons feature-length movie 17 years after it debuted as a TV series in 2007, as that's when the movie came out. Long after the show had, you know, surpassed its relevance or started, had was still considered at its peak popularity. Did that just seem bizarre to you?
Only as actually, I'll rewind it. Yes, it did a little bit because as a child, I was always thinking, when are they going to release a Simpsons movie? I want to see it. I want to see it. I was so thrilled about the idea of a Simpsons movie, as I was a Lego movie. And ultimately, when those films did come out, my day was made, and I was very happy to see them. Realized on the big screen, I saw the trailer for Simpsons movie doing Garfield 2 or something. I was like, that was the only good thing about seeing that movie at Cineworld was I got to see a trailer for Simpsons movie. So I sometimes would get where you're at, and also in '07, most people were sort of into Family Guy at that point, or SpongeBob SquarePants, or like Naruto and Death Note. Those were the big cartoons that year. Simpsons was kind of hanging for life. But I will say this, that film, yes, and it had the issue of the nudity and some of the adult content, was the high point for me. And then after that film, things fell apart. I just stopped watching it as consistently, almost stopped watching it at all. So, yeah, so it'll be unusual. I'm speaking from experience as a Simpsons fan, particularly from
I
the
I only meant
90s to late 2000 stuff.
yeah. Well, I'm only mentioning because I mean, Beavis and Butthead movie came out 4 years after it debuted. South Park 2 years. Even like stuff that it's a bit sorry, we're not quite as more kids stuff. I mean, how long they did well, they did Transformers movie just 2 years after its own debut, and with a Mighty and Power Rangers. Usually, when they do a feature length movie based on a TV show, they do it like only a year or two after it's debuted. Um, when it's at the peak of its popularity. They haven't done a feature length Family Guy one yet. So I know they did that Stewie Griffin the Untold Story, but that's not really count as a film. They did a Rugrats movie, but although the Rugrats debuted in diddly
Like
diddly diddly
91.
diddly did 91. Oh yeah, so that was 98 when the movie came. So that was a bit longer than normal. But again, Rugrats for movie, diddly diddly do. Sorry, I'm just yeah, 1998. So yeah, it was 7 years later, but still, that's a lot. There's a far cry from 7 and 17 years, long after. But when people just, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, it had almost become a joke by that point that The Simpsons' quality had gone down the pan a bit. I mean, me and my brother would sometimes watch it on his because he had Sky TV in his flat at the time. I was residing with him due to working in Bristol at the time, and of course, we just see the latest episodes would just be so utter pants. And I mean, yeah, there's a trope called seasonal rot, but I think with Simpsons, it's just absolute. That just gets taken to well, to almost beyond parody. I can talk.
No, but I've noticed this from a lot of fans. You talk on the internet. Oh, it's started becoming interesting since Series 9 and all this and that. But I think for me, after Simpsons movie came out, is when I kind of just stopped watching it. Partly is also because I moved to somewhere else, and for a bit of time, we didn't have internet access or TV, and there was changing tastes and attitudes. I was getting a lot more into anime, and other live action stuff. And Family Guy was something I was watching a lot more since Christmas 2006 when I got the Series 4 DVD as a gift. So yeah, as things do change, and it could be a bit sad, but I feel that way with especially like the episodes that they made after 2009, 2008. some good episodes. I like that Family Guy Simpsons crossover and that one where they go to the film, not for Oscars, and they play all these sort of short films, and there's a parody of Angry Dad. That I love that episode, but most of them after the Simpsons movie, it just wasn't the same anymore. The nostalgia was gone. They did this with Dexter's Lab when they brought it back on the air, like around '02. '03, I just thought, this isn't the same Dexter I remember. They also had different staff going on altogether, so it complicated things. I just thought I have to divorce from this wonderful show, and it hurts. It's like breaking up with a girlfriend. It hurts.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, when something starts something crap, you have to like let it go. I mean, God knows when Fox would ever let the freaking the series die. Uh, Matt Groening must wanna just put it to sleep by now. I mean, it cannot be fun making the damn show. I mean, Dan Callister and Nancy Cartwright, Yeardley Smith, and I don't know who the rest of them are. Harry Shearer and
Julie Kavner.
well, anyway, they must be sick to their fucking back teeth having to constantly do these voices, constantly keep. Okay, I suppose it's a paycheck, it's a gravy tray, and all that, but what can you really do? I mean, I'm pretty. If a if a show ever if a show does finally get cancelled, I'll bet Dan Callisto will say to himself, "Christ, if I ever hear the word dough again, it'll be too soon."
I think they probably are keeping this show on life support.
Yeah, it is. It is on life support. And I mean, you got
Because
before.
it makes money, as far as syndication rights are concerned. But what it does is it cheapens the experience. The greatest TV shows in the universe are never past their expiration date. When they bring these shows back or they continue them longer than they have to. Notice people complain about that with shows like Grey's Anatomy. It becomes frustrating, and it's almost like playing catch up. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And Walking Dead is another one of those shows
Oh
that passes
fucking
that
hell! Don't
test.
don't get me fucking started on that. At least Game of Thrones wrapped it up after season 8. Sure, they could have done a bit more of season 8, but at least they wrapped it up. I mean, we had to wait till the end of 2022 for them to finally put down Walking Dead. Oh God, I just remember watching that final episode. It was like, finally, it's over. No more. We can move on. Fucking hell.
Well, then came House
Just
of the Dragon.
Oh, I was talking about Walking Dead when they finally got. Yeah, they've done something else for Game of Thrones, and it's like you think, why do we watch Game of Thrones? We watch it, think, you son of a bitch, I'm in. That was good. But it's like, okay, fair enough. I'll watch this. But at least there'd be different characters and everything. But if that's by the end of that, one thing I wanted to mention about the Simpsons is that, like any animated TV show, it's on what's known as a floating timeline. I trust you're familiar with the term.
In other words, no episode is connected to a common storyline. Every episode is different from the next, or they toy around with uh, what's the word? History and plot devices simply just to.
Kinda. Well, kinda, but as we say, like, the show is over 30 years old, yet all the characters are the same age as they were from in the first ever episode. I mean, and that does run into some problems when you think about it. I mean, Principal Skinner's meant to be a Vietnam veteran, even though he's only 44, which by nowadays means he's the same age as no, he's younger than my brother Paul, and would have been born like several years after the Vietnam War ended. Abe Simpson being a World War II veteran now is also, stretching credibility, seeing as the youngest of the greatest generation were born in 1927 and therefore have to be, yeah, we're 96 now. So, I mean, and he's not, well, anywhere near that old. Um, I mean, I don't, I can't remember I first heard one point I heard that Homer's meant to be 38, which makes him my age, and therefore born 85. Marge is 34, therefore she's born. So both Homer and Marge are now both millennials. Of course, you'd watch a lot of the older episodes where they'd do flashbacks, and then flash back to maybe the 80s or even the 70s when they were kids. But it's like, and they did that episode. What was it? The 90s show? Or that 90s show or 90s feeling? Did you see that one?
I did. That's the one where they had the band that was called Sadgasm. That one was
Hmm.
bizarre because Simpsons is a product of 90s culture. Millennials and even late Gen Xers relate to the show on such a level that that almost was probably like a slap in the face to them.
Well, yeah, but if you're going to have this floating timeline and keep having the show going on for as long as it is, you've got your kind of hands are kind of tied. If Homer Simpson is my age, which according to he is, or they might have upped him to 40 now, but that means he's 2 years older than me. You know, he can't have been going to college in the 70s, can he? Hell, by now, I mean, if they want to go back to when Homer were teens, they have to set it in the 2000s. Maybe if they were like going back to when Bart and Lisa were born, they have to go back to last decade, the 2010s. You know, if they want to have a show Homer as a rebellious youth, then rather than listen to, well, never mind not grunge, let alone freaking disco or classic rock, but have to have them listening to new metal.
I know.
But don't get me wrong, I'm down with a
Oh.
Slipknot and Limp Bizkit Homer Simpson, but you know, I mean, this is what you got to do. Eventually, they have to show him being an emo or a scene kid.
I think they tried doing that in one of the episodes where like Lisa was trying to join in with the punkers or something like that. You know, I do have a bit of an issue with that in some respects because I'm so used to seeing the Simpsons characters still use sort of 90s, maybe 2000s era technology. Those more recent episodes that I've seen, where I've seen like Lisa Simpson use like a map book and saying, "We're gonna go to the Maple store," or they try to send like a tweet or something. I'm just like, I want to vomit because that is not the Simpsons I remember. That's like some weird millennial Gen Z crap. Even millennials that should know better. They're like, keep it the way it used to be, man. When I saw it on Fox, or if for
Well, they're trying to.
British, keep it
Well,
like how
because
I saw it on Sky One.
yeah, but that's the thing, though. I mean, like back when it started in the early 90s, well, we're late 80s, but we'll just say early 90s because fuck it. Um, that could have been legit. I mean, one of the things in the house, they always say they don't have a computer. Well, even 1990, I mean, that was kind of unusual. But in 2023, who the fuck doesn't have a computer? I mean, who the fuck's not connected to the damn internet? It's just not fucking normal. I mean, there's also the issue that they're while they're like a house with detached household with uh 2 cars and a garage and all that stuff, right? I mean, they're a single income, a single breadwinner household. Like Homer's the only one that has a job. I mean, that's just not reality nowadays. I mean, that might have been a case when like Matt Groening was growing up, and that likely would have been. But hell, even by the 90s, the neoliberalism had probably made that unrealistic. And by nowadays, that's completely fucked. You want to raise a family? I mean, you can't do it on just one single breadwinner. I mean, yes, Homer could probably work as a nuclear technician, and Marge would probably working as well. I mean, whatever she'd be working as. I mean, I'm just thinking either a teacher or a nurse, or hell, even in an office or an accountant, depending what her qualifications were. Both my parents were accountants who worked in offices, but whatever hell they'd be doing.
Also added to the fact that Homer was not very well educated and it's more or less sort of well, like a blue collar background, even though, well, you know, look at the nuclear part, you got to pass all these safety precautions and stuff. You are right on some extent because for a family to live comfortably, at least through US metrics, you need to have at least about 350,000 per year to just live a good
And
life for your children and your wife and your husband and your pets. And then, like you said, because wages and inflation, um, it didn't help. You know, what you would have made in 87 won't really get you very far now, or if you made it in 2010, you wouldn't have got far in 1987. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, really is dissecting a show that more or less is people just watch to sort of tune out. I love
Oh,
it.
well, no, obviously we're probably over-analyzing a freaking TV show that's just meant to be there for entertainment. But as we've established, as a show, it probably has outstayed its welcome. I mean, for being a nice little cartoon that grown-ups can enjoy, kind of spoiled for choice now. Yes, we've had Family Guy in the South Park. We've also got Matt Groening's other show, Futurama, which is, uh, I swear, it's far more intelligent than Simpsons are, and it's far more entertaining. Um, when that's been uh, rebooted and everything, and it's on you can watch it on Disney Plus. Not a plug, by the way. Fucking hell. But also, I mean, Matt Groening's other show, Disenchanted, uh, which he had on Netflix. Again, not a plug. Well, I just finished this year, but yeah, that was okay-ish, I guess. But again, all other Netflix stuff like Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman, Big Mouth. You know, I mean, you kind of sport for choice. I mean, uh, you'll just wonder if like The Simpsons is again. I don't know how to say it. Just it's just not relevant anymore. Um, it's trying to it's trying to still do what it did back in 1990. Well, I say to it did, but the writing's gone downhill big time. But what made it unique back then, and the same kind of thing that caused George H.W. Bush to call it out on national television, just isn't there anymore. And you know, I think they're constantly trying to make it. It just make it's just kind of sad, really.
I'm probably on the same level as you too. The fact that I even just referenced that they have all these episodes now where, oh no, Bart sends a tweet or something like that, or they're trying to use the latest Gen Z or millennial fad that they're doing nowadays. It's kind of sad, really. Um, this is a show that, in all intents and purposes, is pretty much a critical darling of millennials like ourselves and Generation X. Those were the two groups that particularly grew up with this show and claim it to heart. And see it trying to, stay on its sort of course and try to appeal to perhaps some of the more youngest millennials and obviously Gen Z, maybe even Gen Alpha. That's just offensive. You know what? Gen Z, you can have your Rick and Morty. Gen Alpha,
Well,
you
I
can
mean,
have your.
pandering to when you have to try to pander to younger generations to make yourself seem to get them to watch and make yourself relevant, you're already losing. Because if your stuff was worth watching, they would come to you naturally. That's how the Simpsons kick started off to begin with, and then it lost ground to other ones. I mean, I think it's something that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are recognizing with South Park, realizing that because I know I'm hearing they just want to kick, they want to put that to bed right now because they just don't think they can do much more, and they are losing ground uh, to more modern TV shows. I don't know if Seth MacFarlane is noticing that with Family Guy and American Dad. I mean, it's not exactly. I'm not breaking any. I'm not exactly treading new ground here by saying he's really stopped giving a shit lately, or I'll say lately, last 10 years or something, when it comes to trying to write decent stuff for that show. Uh, American Dad, I haven't watched for a while, but ugh, fucking hell. Yeah, don't know where I'm going with that again.
No, but
Um,
I haven't seen
there was
new episodes of Family Guy in years. And Futurama's even worse. I stopped watching it after the first season, the first four seasons. When they brought it back and they'd done those DVD releases of Bender's Big Game and Beast with a Billion Backs, I wasn't watching it. I was just like, I'll just watch my anime. Or I'll watch Family Guy instead. So yeah, sad, really.
well, yeah. There was one episode of Simpsons that I suddenly saw. Sorry, what was it called? Little Big Girl. Um, which was what? Yeah, back in '07, which is an episode of Simpsons called Little Big Girl, which where Lisa claims to pretends to be a Native American, and I actually watched it a few years back with one of my friends, and there's a scene where uh, Lisa says, "Is it right for me to appropriate this culture for my own personal gains?" It's like I just said to myself, "Wow, this was ahead of its time," because she was actually, well, literally talking about cultural appropriation, which has been a quite a hot button issue over the past, for the past decade. In, but of course, that's not something that was actually talked about too much back in uh the late 2000s.
Nope, you're right. I mean, late 2000s, we were still fine with that sort of bawdy and PC humor. Even we don't even use the word PC anymore. Now we say, oh, if it's woke or not woke. So yeah,
They used to say SJWs about 10 years, circa 2014 to 2017, until that SJW being an abbreviation of social justice warrior, until that fell in on itself. I, of course, had my reservations about that term to begin with, as everything I need to know about that phrase and the people who used it, I learned from Gamergate. But that's another topic, another time. But yeah, then SJW fell out of favor and got replaced with woke, woke or woke scold. But to be honest, I mean, even now you roll your eyes when you hear people say that.
it's, sort of new era terminology people use. It's like edge lord. I've never heard that word before, but I keep hearing it when people, reference that Joker film or Euphoria or something like that. I'm just like, and even Simpsons and Family Guy, doing a lot of these sort of episodes that sort of play on sort of modern tropes and stuff, which I don't think quite works. Now with Family Guy, it works a little bit more because Family Guy's a more adult show. It's more violent, it's more rude and outrageous, and it can get away with sort of piecemealing current trends because it's not meant to be sort of nostalgic. It's meant to be sort of just like taking the piss, just like Spitting Image was until it got cancelled and they brought back 2D TV. That got cancelled. Then it became Head Cases, cancelled. Then it became Diesel, cancelled. Spitting Image again. Now it got cancelled. Sorry.
Oh, I mean, you seem to be making the same complaints that I was talking talking about earlier on. But yeah, I mean, these things may get cancelled because they don't they just don't fit in this day and age. But like, wish I'd cat. But I do actually wish they'd cancel The Simpsons because it's well just past its bloody sell date. I mean, I just it is first of all it makes me feel a bit bad knowing that the longest running TV show in the world. Well, again, that's not a soap. Like, hadn't started airing when I was born, so that makes me feel old. But still, I mean, yeah, but it is older than you though, Mark, and that gives the impression, makes you realize just shit. This time's it is going too long. I mean, I say we're running out of ideas, but we've been running out of ideas for that show for fucking ages. Does maybe Matt Green isn't right for it anymore. I don't know what he does.
He's
'Cause
probably
I don't know.
just happy sitting on the pile of money that he's getting from all those syndications and residuals. Although with the WGA strikes recently, that might be debatable, but retroactively, when WGA had a little bit more leeway, than they do now. We're probably like laughing at some at the bank, and I'm just like, oh God. On a level, we can sort of point out Simpsons for doing this, but I'm gonna probably get in trouble with you for saying this, Rob. I feel that way about Futurama when they brought it back on the air with those DVD releases. They, done the TV series, the second revival, and they now have this third revival. I just thought, that's it. I'm leaving. Also, because it's just playing catch up. I can't do it. Reboots and sort of revivals of shows and stuff aren't always easy for me to watch.
But it's true, and there's always a risk if it did like end the Simpsons, to try and bring it back. But like it's like it's what is it again? It's just at least well, besides Futurama isn't as old as the Simpsons. It's younger, newer than it by about 10 years. I mean, that's the fact that that's old says it all really. At least we did get impression it was time to end it. Simpsons has just been chugging it along over and over. It just seems like the three things in this universe are constant: death, taxes, and the Simpsons.
Well, I feel that way probably about Grey's Anatomy and Mitch McConnell. Those
But
shows.
how old's Grey's Anatomy though?
Well, I remember it came on like Living. It was like in '05, '06. And that bloody thing is on like even up until now. Many cast changes, but it's still on there. You know,
2005.
you know, that sort of stuff is for like EastEnders and Coronation Street. Are, great soap operas that grandparents watch during tea time, but you don't have to really do that for sort of narrative-based programs and cartoons. That sort of just cheapens the experience a little bit. And I'm worried there's going to come a point where Marvel is going to be a little bit like that too. I know none of this has anything to do with film ratings and stuff, but
We're
this
not
is a
talking about film
one-off
ratings. We're just talking about
episode.
yeah. I
So,
mean, you are right. It's cheapings. The fact you go to Disney World and see people dressed up like the Marvel characters or like Star Wars characters does maybe cheapen it a bit. But I guess corporations have got a corporation to make money. Also, remember, I brought up that it was in 2007. The Simpsons movie came out, but I also brought up the Simpsons video game as well that year as well. I know that other Simpsons video games as well, but
oh
that
yeah,
was
I
like
remember
this.
that one.
Yeah, that was like it's a really big one. It's like a really well put together one, rather than just some cheaply put together knockoff video game. And I don't know if anyone listening can remember that one. Uh, we played it on I think we played my brother's Xbox 360. The Simpsons video game. Uh,
It's the first one that they did that had a 12 certificate by the BBFC. Because all the other video games they were sort of ELSPA or PEGI rated, like
the
Hit and Run
Simpsons.
and Road
Yeah.
Rage were all like
Okay.
7 plus or 3 plus.
Right. Yeah. Mark found it. Yes, it was. Yeah, Simpsons video game. Yeah, made for. Oh no, it was on all platforms. I think we probably played it on my brother's 360 or. No, it doesn't. Yeah, it didn't come out on the. Didn't come out. Oh yeah, because it might have been. I was on my PlayStation 3 by then. Yeah, but no, probably playing it as 360, and of course we're surprised just for how well put together, considering these sort of IP style video games tend to be quite quite cheaply made and just uh lazy cash in. But no, this one, there was actually a lot of thought in it, much like in South Park Stick of Truth and Fractured Buttholes. Like, oh my god, there's actually a good creative process being put into it, and I just find it kind of weird. Yeah, that one came out in like 2007, just like frickin' and the movie did, even long after the show had uh ceased to. Well, again, in my opinion, and in my opinion, many other people's, ceased to be relevant. And here we are 16 years later and it's still bloody going. And you just wonder if like again I'm just repeating myself now, but the executives at Fox or Disney who now owns them, are they still trying to bleed it dry, but I don't know how much they can be bleeding. I mean, I would check for ratings and everything, and it can't be. They must be dropping.
Oh, easily there, but then I remember seeing like a BuzzFeed article or something that said it's one of the most popular TV shows or cartoons with Generation Z. I'm like, I don't know anyone who's Gen Z, Tom included, who watches the fuck. Oh, I'm gonna try not use strong language because The Simpsons is kept 12 or PG and below, and they censor for TV.
I've sworn. Right, I've sworn already on this podcast. I think already as it is.
Well, all right. Well, fuck it. But yeah, I don't know any Generation Z person that watches that show at all. They're more likely to watch something like Rick and Morty or what's that one that's popular? Steven Universe or Adventure Time and all the countless Demon Slayers and Naruto's and shit. Oh, it
Oh,
makes it laugh
that's correct. That is correct.
because us millennials, we've seen all these adult cartoons. If you think adult animation, you think millennials and to some extent Generation X.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, Matt Groening's a boomer. I think most of the cast are boomers. They were born in the 50s, they've been in the 40s, everything. But yeah, it probably would have appealed originally to Generation X's or elder millennials. It would have carried on with the younger millennials as well. But I mean, yeah, by the time Gen Z even came of age, it was not really relevant then. Why the fuck would they give a shit about this? Frankly, has been TV series. It's but they used to make good biting satire back in the day, or at least yeah. If you watch some of the older episodes, they used to make fun of stuff, and of course, or like topical issues. It was like, ooh, or like societal issues. It was like, that's quite funny. Now it's just like they're just trying to be zany, and then they're not good at it.
And I mean, I like zany, I do like the 2000s era Simpsons episodes,
Yeah,
although
but you
the
want zany,
90s
just
ones have the upper hand.
watch bloody the zaniness. Just watch Family Guy. Them, it's much better.
Oh,
But
yes.
again, but
Well,
again, I mean, uh, tr- but yeah,
well,
I don't know. While we're here, should we talk about the controversy surrounding Apu?
I think it would be hard not to ignore that. Now, for me, we've mentioned it on a few podcasts before that, yes, I didn't really pay attention to the fact that he was played by a Jewish voice actor. And, the fact that there was, all this controversy that they made a documentary called The Problem with Apu about this, and to where we haven't seen him in recent episodes since like late 2017, kind of tells you quite a lot. But I'm probably on a more sort of conservative position on this one. I don't know for you. You're probably like, I'm glad they got rid of Hank Azaria to play Thank You and Come Again.
And Kazara, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is mind-boggling how he thought that was okay. Just like because if you saw a white person in real life doing an Indian accent, you would, you would cringe. You would think, "Oh God, that's some Jim Davidson style humor. That's not fucking funny. I mean, that's kind of shit your racist old uncle or granddad laughs at. I mean, and yet here we are watching this program, and that for freaking ages they just suddenly got away with this, and when they suddenly finally brought it up, circa, was it 2018, 2019? I don't know. They just people actually like cried foul. It's like, well, of course. Well, it's not surprised it wasn't brought up earlier. I mean, I'm surprised the Indian population didn't cry foul earlier about this essentially some form of modern form of minstrelsism. And I mentioned on the how Futurama seemed to be doing better. What with Hermes being voiced by Phil Lamar, who's black, and Amy being voiced by Lauren Tom, who's at least half Asian. Then I found out that Amy's dad was actually voiced by Billy West, who voices Fry. So, oh dear, that fell on the that fell to the wayside a bit.
I'm
But also,
afraid so. I mean, King of the Hill is probably worse, because there's a Laotian family that is the neighbors of the Hank Hill family, and they're all voiced by white or Jewish talent. And yeah, it doesn't look good on a sort of a post-millennial atmosphere that we live in. But I guess us millennials, we're not as politically correct as we like to think we are, and Gen
I
X certainly isn't.
oh god, I'm going to mention Gen Xers can be real dicks at the time being. I mean, I mean, many of them I just think they tend to be the typical vulgar libertarian types who tend to have rather how should we say unorthodox or basically uh not quite acceptable views on age of consent laws. Mm.
Nope.
Do you yes, you get where I'm
Jerry
going with
Lee
that?
Lewis.
Pardon?
Jerry Lee Lewis.
I didn't catch what you said.
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Jerry Lee Lewis. Oh, that sort of stuff. Well, I mean, yeah. Where was I going? There was also an episode. They also brought up. I read an article on Cracked who brought up the issue of whitewashing when also with BoJack Horseman. Have you watched BoJack Horseman?
Only that one episode that got the 18. So I think there was some sort of autoerotic asphyxiation plot.
Possibly, possibly. Anyway, the character Diane Gwynn, who's of Vietnamese descent, hence the surname. She's not actually voiced by an Asian actress. It is a white actress, so one might say they've cried foul too. I did sort of put up a, I would actually say to her and say, yeah, but she's got a casual American accent, so at least that's kind of defensible. I mean, it's a fact that like Hank Azaria, who said was voicing Apu, was doing the full-on Indian accent that was a bit uh that's what made it so wrong and cringe.
Well, it is because he was playing on a lot of the stereotypes people think about Indians in America, particularly because they tend to, well, from some personal experience, I can sort of confirm that there are a sizable number of South Asian business owners of 7-Elevens, which is like your equivalent of Tesco Express,
Yeah, I
or
know what 7-Eleven is.
in the United States. But he probably played the stereotyping a little too close to the knuckle. Um, Anything that he didn't say was the P word. And then also there was also controversy about some of the other characters like Dr. Hibbert, who was voiced by Harry Shearer. He plays like a sort of Bill Cosby type of black person that whites can love. But yes, Harry Shearer actually even stated before Hank Azaria did, I'm not going to be playing the Dr. Hibbert character anymore because it's insensitive. And for a long time, I didn't pick up on that the ethnic and racial origin of the voice talent. All I knew was that, oh, he voices this character, that character, but yeah, it does appear in a post-millennial climate, it does seem outdated. I'm in sort of in the wrong. I lose this battle because I'm guilty of laughing a lot of this sort of stuff. Don't take my word for it. I'm the fucker who thought Little Britain was funny, and Bo Selector. I've got no taste in comedy.
Oh, we were all kind of cringing at the Little Britain now. But people were saying that, but like, because those jokes were offensive back in 2003, let alone in like in the 2020, the new Black Lives Matter. I don't know what the fuck we're thinking. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Do
I
you
don't know why.
think Bo Selector or Mighty Boosh is offensive too?
I've not watched Mighty Boosh much to really comment so much on it. Bo Selector, Yes, actually, they made some unbelievably homophobic jokes regarding Elton John. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, I probably did some very racist jokes about well, about Bo Selector. Seemed to be a mocking of what we call MLE, or multicultural London English, or Jamaican patois, especially how he portrayed Craig David and how he portrayed Michael Jackson. But yeah, that was yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, that's pretty cringe and everything. I only mentioned. I mean, I was watching back a lot of stuff I grew up watching. I mean, obviously, I was already a lot older when I saw those things. But look back at a lot of the sitcoms I watched growing up in the 90s. I realized, oh, how did you get away with that? I mentioned Goodnight Sweetheart, and they made some unbelievably racist Korean jokes, which is which is quite refreshing when I rewatch Bottom, because it managed to avoid anything that could be considered problematic, and it's still aged remarkably well, as you might have seen when I showed you episode when you were around mine.
Yes. Well, if only the one thing I can only think of as far as controversy is bottom concerned was that bleeding bastard Yobbos moment, and then also the banter. Because there are two guys who are obsessed with trying to get sex and that sort of stuff. It comes across as a bit laddie, which
Yeah, but yeah, but where, unlike men behaving badly, where you're laughing with them, or and the joke's more about on the expense of the women they're preying on. And with Bottom, the joke is very much on them for being such bad, unlikable losers and everything. So the fact the joke is completely, and Mail and Edmondson knew what they were doing with this. They made it so that the joke, Rich and Eddie were the butt of a joke all the time. So it makes it. Although a lot of people might not have picked up on that, but when you actually start to watch it, and start to pay attention, yeah, you know who the butt of the joke is, and it's not the other people. It's those two for just being cunts.
No, but they're complete natters in what they do with some of the scenes and episodes that I've seen. But I know for you, Bottom is, I would argue, your most favorite show of all time. So
Well,
it's like
it
almost
is.
quite like Simpsons for you, to where you can't watch certain episodes because you might start crying. You might be like, "Oh, it reminds me when I was a little sprog."
Well, I'd say they don't make TV shows like that anymore, but it's only because there aren't any comedians that can actually do what they did. It's not because any. It's not because, oh, we're just too it's not very politically correct, and people are too politically correct these days. Like, no, it's actually surprisingly it's actually quite timeless in its own way, unlike a lot of others. So I mean, yeah, it is a bit of a shame they don't make TV shows of it anymore. But yeah, it's really out left but left in the dirt all other 90s sitcoms, and yeah. But when we talk about Simpsons, we're on about Bottom now, so I think we should probably get back to that subject.
Well,
Um,
rewinding back onto Simpsons, for anyone who is curious, what is your favorite episode? Because for me, it's Bart sells his soul, because that was the first one I ever saw. And it must have been like in 1998 or 99, because I got it for Christmas. And, there was the tree and the chimney nearby, and I was like, hey, because I may have
I
or may not have seen it on Sky or something. My memory's a bit foggy because around the same time they played Simpsons, they had Dilbert and the PJs, which were two other more adult cartoons I was watching at that time.
I could not say what my favorite episode of The Simpsons is. There are just, again, even for about the time when it was good, there's still just too many episodes to actually pick from, and
Oh, I'll
yeah, I
sort of
couldn't. It
turn
wouldn't.
the clocks here. What about for Futurama?
Uh, Futurama. One of my favorite ones is from season 4. It's the Taste of Freedom episode, where they're celebrating Freedom Day, or another one is the 100 Big Boys, where they all everyone gets $300 to do as they want with, and Fry decides to have 100 cups of coffee, and so that's quite. Yeah, those two episodes are very funny. I enjoy them quite a lot.
My favorite one is the mental asylum episode. I think it's called Hell is Forever Robots. That I remember laughing quite a bit. And if you're talking about the revival series, I've only seen like one or two episodes. I like that Robo Sex Marriage one. That one was funny. But yeah, it's the asylum episode, Hell is Forever Robots, that always makes me tickle. The Ally McBeal one's quite funny too, which they call single female lawyer having
Yeah,
lots of
the alien
sex.
invasion one. Yeah, yeah, I remember that one when aliens invade. That is quite a good one. I'm not gonna lie, not gonna lie. I don't know if the asylum one is Hell as Other Robots. That's one where Bender, goes to hell. Futurama Asylum episode.
And there's like another robot that
Insane in the Mainframe. That was it.
that was it. Oh shit! Sorry, I got the titles confused.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, those are good episodes. Those are good episodes. Not gonna lie.
Now, for you, because obviously you're older than me, now seeing Futurama being 12, weirdly enough, didn't freak me out as much because at the time I was just getting, into maybe a little bit more 12 stuff. It was drip by drip. 2002 was obviously the year, obviously, because Spider-Man. That my parents were a little bit more relaxed about the 12 classification, but for some reason I never owned Futurama on DVD, until very recently. But Simpsons, I've owned pretty much a lot of the VHS tapes. I even recorded on tape, and then got like the series 3, series 1, 7, 8, 9, and 10 box sets, and then obviously the movie. Now, about the movie, I got the UK version because I went to US and they were going to give me the Reach of One copy, but I told them no, thank you, but no thanks. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I already owned the copy, in Region 2 for the UK, but I also was not comfortable bringing a film that had a scene with a naked child and you see his penis just for a nanosecond for international customs, because I was worried they were going to come and get the DVD, arrest me because they may have mistaken it as kiddie porn, even though it's a scene from a movie that has made $526 million worldwide.
And it's a silly cartoon, but yeah, I mean, fair enough. Well, I think I lost a
That
bit of the thread there.
I know, because I've gone
Yeah.
on about Simpsons movie in the past before, about how that film. I'm a great fan of that movie, but that one scene still makes me uncomfortable.
Well, it's not absolutely a great scene or anything. As for my opinion on Futurama being a 12, I mean, I don't think I watched it until 2002 when it was already 17. I mean, yeah, I felt that's where it belonged. I knew it was stronger than Simpsons, which was at PG. It wasn't as strong as South Park, which was 15. So I figured, yeah, 12 stands to reason.
Well, well, that's right. I think the Australians seem to have understood it a little bit more because for almost all the season they passed it at PG down under, just like they do with Simpsons. But I think up until a point, they upgraded to the M category, which I'm not surprised by. Now I know for people who are listening, they're probably thinking, "Why aren't you talking about ratings?" And the answer is simple. This is not a BBS TV MPA podcast. That shit is done. We're just talking about Simpsons because it's one of my all-time favorite shows. But for anyone who is curious, just to get it out of the way, Simpsons was censored in the UK for Channel 4 and Sky One broadcasts. So the only way you could watch it uncut was through those DVD and VHS releases. And there was VHS that's called Too Hot for TV that had some of those episodes within it. And, this was also something I didn't pick up on until I got much older, like 18, 19 years old. And I thought, oh, these were the versions. The version you're watching of Simpsons was been trimmed and cut a little bit. I didn't pick
It was
up
on
until
prime time.
this.
Well, it was on prime time TV, so they would cut stuff out. I remember in the Prohibition episode. I mean, the bit where what's it? Chief Wiggins says all the best inventors in our country have been drunk or on cocaine was cut down. Said we're either drunk or and then just sort of cuts it out. But I mean, and of course when they say things like wanker, which isn't really a strong word in America, but is here, that gets cut out at prime time as well. If they re-air it again after prime time, or just in the evening, they'll leave it back in.
Well, I'd never really had the opportunity to watch Simpsons at like 11 at night, but there were some handful of episodes that did get the cut, like the one which involves Homer smoking medical cannabis, which we talked on the TV podcast about. I personally thought, that was one of the few episodes I can think of that I did not see in Brit. I had to really enough see that episode in America, where they aired it uncut on like 6:30 in the evening, and I was like, "How come I've never seen this episode before?" Well, now you know why. 'Cause it shows Homer getting high, and that was the whole episode. It's a 12 certificate, but given how Britain's drug policies are a little bit like, it is a kind of a strong 12 because you don't
Well,
really
I
see
guess
a lot of
so.
people smoking, getting high in 12 works. It's more or less incidental and brief. You don't get drug stuff until you get to 15.
Well, I mean, yeah, they need to chill out on that a bit. That is a bit silly. Um, I mean, have we uh covered all things we can? Mark?
Um, as far as I'm concerned, I might as well just say yes. I know for everyone who's listening, yes, I know it's all kind of unruly, but I don't give a shit. I just want to do it because it was fun. Now, Halloween
Yeah, it was good fun.
is coming up. So anyone who is curious to see what horror films are and stuff, there is a podcast that we did on that. Uh, um, I don't know when I'll be doing another podcast again, but I'm happy to have you on board.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens at the time. So, yeah. To always listening, thanks for tuning in, and well, let's well,
Excellent.
I
Uh,
if you're still enjoying The Simpsons, don't know what you see in the latest episodes, but you know, glad you get something out of it, I guess, and enjoy it while it lasts.